Yeah, Talaman, Geek Talk. Let's enjoy the show. Talaman always got a plan. Geek Talk is popping where it's really at. Represents geek culture, homie got structure. Sometimes it's focus, we don't catch culture. We like Luffy, smart to say the least. Loving One Piece, man, really loves to eat. Everybody knows the show is really is Talaman. You know what time it is. Let's go, Geek Talk.
Hello and welcome. We got another episode of Geek Talk with Tyler. If this guest sounds familiar, you probably heard him in one of my previous episodes. So, Joe, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, and if you do remember me, I appreciate your lust for knowledge of the obscure, because that's me.
Terrific. Before we go any further, you want to tell the audience a bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, in case this is the first time them hearing you?
All right. Well, if this is your first time hearing me, I am a voice actor on the podcast Faerun Stories Untold. I am a ex-independent wrestler who I did a little bit, nothing major or crazy. And I have a very eclectic past. I've done a little bit of everything. I've been a security guard for a ski mountain. I've classically trained French chef. Right now I run an unloading crew for docks. So, like I said, I am all over the place.
Awesome. So today's episode, as by the title suggests, the problem with mainstream. For those of you that don't know, mainstream is anything that becomes so popular you don't have to whip out your phone, Google it. It's just a common household name. Characters like Spider-Man, Superman, and Optimus Prime would all be considered mainstream characters. So, Joe, I gotta ask, what are some mainstream characters you're personally a fan of?
Okay, so mainstream ones, like, yeah, again, you've already named some. Like, I'm a big fan of Batman. Wolverine is very mainstream now, or was. A lot of the Avengers originally, I like their stories of when they weren't with the Avengers, like Thor and Captain America. What else now? Dungeons and Dragons, of course, that's now super mainstream, and I've been playing for years. Since before it was cool.
I see what you did there.
Let's see. Yeah, you like that?
I do.
Some of the older, not so much video games, but some of the older classic video games, like I remember playing and working so hard to play, like the original Mario Brothers and things like that.
So some real old school shit, basically.
Yeah, like cartoons, a lot of cartoons. I have spent too much of my life watching cartoons.
Now, when you say cartoons, do you mean like the Bugs Bunny shit, or like anything that's just animated?
Yes.
All right.
To be honest, that really held my attention today. Like where VR holds most kids now, that was the animated stuff was always there. Like I remember still the first time one of my friends brought over anime for the first time, and I was just blown away. But like a lot of, I have one or two people at work who are into the same old school cartoons as I am, so we'll play old theme songs and guess the title. See who can get it first.
Right.
Like anything as mundane as like the Gummy Bears to here's a really old one if anybody wants to really Ulysses 31. That's a very old one.
And interesting you brought up Gummy Bears. Here's a little fun fact for you.
Yeah.
Did you know that the series Gargoyles was loosely based on the Gummy Bears?
No.
Very loosely.
No way.
Now think about it. Gummy Bears has the misadventures of several different colored gummy bears with a human ally. Gargoyles is the same thing, except they're gargoyles instead of humans, and it takes place in modern day, and I use that term loosely considering it was the 90s.
Modern at that time. Okay.
Yeah, at the time it was modern. Now, it's just a blast from the past.
There's an old, I believe it was either Funimation or Hasbro cartoon called Galtar, which I remember watching it, and it was supposed to take off in the far off distant future of 1999.
You mean like how the Jetsons takes place in the far off future of 2006?
Yep. It was just hilarious because, like, according to that cartoon, Galtar, a comet was supposed to go in between the Earth and the Moon, cracking it in half and causing us all to go like back to a kind of a cyber steampunk Middle Ages mix with magic. So there was like sorcery and old school science.
You
and
do realize you're just basically
like,
summing up He-Man in a few words or less, right?
It is absolutely He-Man. It was He-Man before He-Man came out. They were actually almost sued by Star Wars because one of the characters is basically Chewbacca.
Well, do they call themselves Chewbacca?
Nope, they called it. He was Atla the Muck, I believe. If I probably have the name wrong, but he was this big, super strong, furry, like beast person, and when that all I did was like growl and roar.
Well, that really sums up a lot of characters. Based on that logic, whoever created King Kong should sue Star Wars.
Absolutely. Well, I'm telling you, dude. If you want a trip, just go and look at it. Just go and look it up. There's a couple episodes online.
And what was the series called, in case our viewers didn't get it the first time?
Galtar, I believe it was.
All right, that's definitely worth looking into.
The dude he even had like a laser sword. The main guy. It was like He-Man with a laser sword with a little bit of Conan the Barbarian thrown in.
Well, that sounds like Honest Trailers 101 right there.
Yes.
But I think this really dives down to our topic today, the problem with mainstream media. And this also ties in a bit to the whole concept of reboots. Because every time we get a new series, a new movie, it's just, oh, it's Batman, but let's just add another actor to it. Or it's basically Optimus Prime with this small ragtag of Autobots, usually with Bumblebee in the mix somewhere, so it's just a reshifting cast of 3 other Autobots.
Or my favorite is let's reboot Spider-Man and tell his origin story again.
Yes, bitten by a spider, lost his Uncle Ben, with great power comes great responsibility. Yes, I haven't heard that story before.
Yeah, well, there were 3 iterations of it. And like, don't get me wrong, I love how Marvel and Disney tied it all together with the multiverse thing. But if they hadn't, that's literally 3 movies telling the same first story.
You know, I gotta say, multiverse is funny. When Spider-Man has a multiverse, he's got 3 different actors. But when Doctor Strange has a multiverse, it's all the same guy.
Well, there is only one Benedict Cumberbatch.
Hey, I'm just saying, we could have used someone like Viggo Mortensen as another Doctor Strange, or really want to get...
You are true, like, get weird with it, like anybody else.
Or get a John Rhys Davies freaking Doctor Strange.
Oh.
I mean, he was a good Macbeth in Gargoyles.
Yeah.
So I'm just talking out loud.
It would have been definitely fun.
It would have been fun to think about what if, no pun intended for Marvel.
Yes. That's the live action movie I want. I want a live action, somehow they do a what if.
Honestly, I would rather see a Savage Land series.
Ooh, that'd be pretty cool.
Right? I mean, the main antagonist of the whole thing during out is Sauron. It's like a freaking Tarzan-esque thing with dinosaurs. Who wouldn't want to see that?
The saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah, the saber-toothed tiger. Well, technically cat, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I say that because it's one of those common misconceptions. Like, there's no such thing as a saber-toothed tiger. The correct term of the word is saber-toothed cat. It's like how people think pteranodons are dinosaurs. They're not. They are their own group of flying reptiles.
Either way you slice it, it would definitely be cool.
Oh, absolutely. There's no question on if it would be cool. The question is if people can stop getting their nips hard over the latest Iron Man, Thor, Doctor Strange malarkey, because Marvel is like the second best-selling comic franchise of all time, which means they have no shortage of characters to work on.
What I find kind of cool is what they're doing like deep dives into very obscure characters, like, and just giving them like little one bits to see if like the hardcore fans pick it out.
Well, yeah,
that's the one thing I like about the Marvel
I don't think that was
movies.
really the case for Eternals, though. That might have been Marvel's worst film as of yet.
Really, I haven't seen it yet. Like, maybe I'll see it soon. I don't know. I have so many movies I need to catch up on. It's insane. But I'm trying to watch the entire Marvel movie franchise with my son in order. So
you didn't finish the Marvel franchise so far?
We have just gotten done with the Infinity Wars and things like that.
No, that's okay. Chadwick Boseman didn't finish it either. But
ouch.
But speaking of Black Panther, I think that's another character that would have been best as obscure until Marvel decided to highlight it.
Yeah. That goes into something I referenced Black Panther last night, and you said something about revamping and whatnot. The new Velma series that's coming out on HBO Max, and I've spoken with. All right, I'm trying not to sound racist.
It's basically a recoloring of already existing characters.
But here's the thing. They tied it with Scooby-Doo, and Scooby-Doo's not even in the frickin' show.
Dude, that's like going to Red Lobster and not having any cheddar biscuits.
Yeah. Like, he's what it was named after, and I get it that the show's named Velma. I have no problem with turning Velma black. I have no problem with Shaggy being black.
Well, I think she was Indian.
I don't.
Or something.
Either or. But I don't care, because I see that as a changing of the times. But people in the Black and Hispanic community that I have spoken with, they're pissed off about it.
Because you're just recoloring an already existing white character instead of bringing new blood into the franchise.
Exactly. Not proper representation of their culture. Meanwhile, you have, I believe it's one of the latest Japan Street Fighter Games, sorry.
There we
has a 80s style tagger female who happens to be black or African American, whichever way you want to put it. And she is represented beautifully, like, as, cool and hip and slick and everything, you could possibly want. And yet that gets less coverage than this Velma series that goes against everything that's been canon for Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo's been around since the 60s.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like all those other Hanna-Barbera shows. Scooby-Doo is a very common household name, so when you see the latest Scooby-Doo piece of shit, that's automatically going to grab attention because it's already a common established name. And Marlene Sharp, I've discussed this to great length, that if you're going to get butts in seats, whether it's in theaters or at the couch, you're going to want recognizable names. Scooby-Doo, Batman, Spider-Man, Optimus Prime, He-Man. These are already established names that people that have made a name for themselves, and they just want to cash that cow in by milking it to absolute death.
Yep. And see, I'm all for updating with the times, 100%. But there's a point where it goes too far. Like, all right, and this is, again, just me, hate me, like me, or whatever. I don't care that they made Velma a lesbian. I don't. My one problem is Velma, Scooby-Doo, the whole thing. It was a children's show. Why are we pushing sexuality on kids so freaking early and want that they have to make a choice? Why can't whatever happened to letting them be kids for a while?
Honestly, sex sells. And I agree with you. I don't believe they should add sexual tendencies to children's franchises. But this kind of falls into what is and what's not a children's movie. Aladdin would be an example of a children's film. But keep in mind, it didn't have the best representation. And on top of that, one of the opening scenes did have a brothel in it.
Mm-hmm.
Or Pinocchio
Absolutely.
could also be seen for kids. But we see characters smoking and drinking. Should that be for kids?
It's a changing of the times because we'll take the two movies you just referenced. Pinocchio, when was that written and put out? It was common for kids and whatnot to be working by the age of 10 and smoking and things like that. That was totally common. Times change, so yes, if we did a revamp of Pinocchio, yes, I would totally expect it to be changed where there's no more smoking or things like that. If this was, again, strictly for kids.
We did.
Aladdin,
and side note, do not watch that Pinocchio live action remake. It was just god awful. On the other hand, the Guillermo del Toro one was actually pretty good.
Really?
Oh, really?
I'll have to give it a look. And I've always been with for everybody listening, I have a son. I have two sons. My youngest one is 10 years old. Okay. I try not to, within what I find taste, and again, it's my right as a parent. You can parent differently. On what I tell him about life and the way things are. I remember when he was a little baby, I never listened to traditional children's music with him because I would work all night and then I would stay home with him as his mother went to go work during the daytime, and we would do the house cleaning and stuff like that. When he was in his crib and his like holder and bouncing and crawling all around, we listened to alternative rock because I don't want to sit here and listen to the wheels on the bus go round and round for 4 hours straight. And because of that, my son has a very eclectic taste in music, from musicals and classical to Irish to folk to rock to metal. We just took him last year to see the Dropkick Murphys live, and that is his all-time favorite band.
Well, you know what they say about tradition. It's just peer pressure forced by dead people.
There you go. And I get it. I understand where they're coming from, but it's my right to not like it.
And that is your right as an American to do so. Just because it's popular doesn't automatically mean you should like it.
Exactly.
I mean, okay, this is just my opinion. I personally think Superman is overrated. Last member of a dead race automatically has these superpowers just because of a freaking yellow orb. And apparently nothing can stop him against what? Like a glowing rock? That's like his biggest weakness? It gets old after a while.
But did you see they just gave him a power upgrade too?
And what's this upgrade he now gets?
It's undefined yet, but it's a scene in one of the comics that just came out. He and Lex are fighting in space. Lex is in his big suit and everything like that. Lex hits him with this laser beam or whatever and shoots him across the universe. Within a second, a boom tube opens up, or some kind of tube opens up, and he's there, and he goes, "You don't understand it. I am more powerful than I have ever been. My mind and body and strength have gone far beyond what it was before. Things like distance, weight, time mean nothing to me now." And he just puts a fucking hand on. Sorry, I don't mean to swear, but I swear a lot.
All good.
On on Lex's like machine suit, and it just breaks apart. Other than just the head thing to keep Lex alive.
So he's basically a
And what I
god
just-
now.
Basically, and that's always been a thing that he could attain god levels. But damn.
Well, yeah, Superman is overrated. I've always liked characters that have limits to them. Batman is a perfect example of stuff. Sure, he's a scientist, he's brilliant, he's a good martial artist, but he's still human, and that serves as his biggest weakness.
Right.
And it works for him.
Yeah, and then they've been downplaying him too, because first of all, he fell from the moon. Have you read that?
Batman fell from the moon.
Batman fell from the moon and survived, but then got like slack-jawed by somebody just using magic or whatever.
I've honestly never cared for magic. It's just science that we can't explain. That's all it really is. But I think the biggest aspect of the mainstream that I have a problem with is that every time something comes out, it's usually just something that already exists. And it really doesn't give the opportunity for new growth, whether it's new characters, new character development. Like, we're always getting the same Batman movies. A guy who becomes brooding because his parents died in front of him in a dark alley. Like, here are two Batman movies I would like to see. First would be a Batman Beyond movie where Bruce Wayne realizes he's old and he can't do this anymore, so he trains his son, which he was never told to him directly, but considering that he's one of the world's best detectives, I had a feeling he always knew, but just never said anything about it. So he trains his son, Terry McGinnis.
I never liked that angle, personally.
Why didn't you like it?
That was my, like, because to me, and I watched the as much as I could have with the whole Batman Beyond series. I didn't read the comic books or anything like that. I thought it took away from Terry's uniqueness. Like, here was Terry, he earned the right to be the new Batman, but he's doing it a different way. And then to suddenly say, nope, you were fated to always be a Batman, and so is your brother, because they're genetically identical to Bruce.
Yeah, but even that episode gave us one of the best adult jokes of all time. Bruce's DNA was easy to find. He left it all over town. Not even remotely what I meant. You didn't even have to say anything. It was just, nope, not even what you're thinking. Don't think about it. That's not what I mean. Get that thought out of your head. Nope. So that would be my first idea for a good Batman movie. And the next one was actually from the comics. This was referenced briefly in one of the animated films, but I think this would be a good focus for an overall movie. Instead of his parents dying, Bruce Wayne dies. His mom becomes the Joker, and his dad becomes Batman.
Oh, from the Flashpoint.
Yes, from Flashpoint.
Stuff. Yes, that would be amazing.
So, if anything, that would serve as a good compromise. Is it still Batman? Yes. But is it the same Batman we're getting? Nope.
They could do this and make... I think it... Well, I mean, and this just might be me. If they did a whole brand of... Because they did the brand of Elseworlds, which was basically Marvel's What If. If they did a whole Elseworlds, they could do the Batman thing like that. They could do the different kinds of Superman. They could do anything of that, because there was that Batman. They could do the Flashpoint with the Elseworlds and explore it like that. And if they got a not so crazy Flash, you know.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize Ezra Miller was sane.
Yeah. If they got that, then they could do the Flashpoint movie and open up Elseworlds.
I mean, that would be a good concept. I mean, honestly, I think a Lobo movie or a Lobo series should happen first.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Aren't
kind of
they
like
in the works for that though? With Jason Momoa?
Yeah, they are, and I'm glad they're finally doing something about
There
it.
we go.
He's basically the more badass version of Han Solo. No, wait, he's like the Han
Right.
Solo who had a weird love child with Deadpool, and you throw a little bit of Wolverine in there, and then that's Lobo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's like a biker who's been kicked out of heaven and hell. He's basically immortal, can heal from anything, and he always has this
Yep.
chain with a little hook at the end of it because as if having a
The meat hook.
motorcycle in space wasn't cliche enough to be a biker character.
Mm-hmm.
But still, it works, and that's another problem we really have with mainstream. Even with big names like Marvel, DC, Hasbro, you always focus on the already existing characters. Batman, Spider-Man, Transformers, and I do like and appreciate all these franchises, but a lot of the times it's always the same story.
Yeah, I believe the latest Batman though, where he faces off against the Riddler. I haven't seen it yet, but I heard that was at least a different story, which is awesome. And I think the Riddler is one of those underrated villains too.
I would say at least a solid C-lister.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's not Joker good, he's not
Well, he could
Bane
be so
strong,
much more.
he's not Killer Croc fierce, but he's definitely recognizable. And it's because of him we have one of more used terms from geek culture, riddle me this.
Yep. That's the thing. It's like the way he's portrayed in a lot of things. I think he could be so much more of a threat. Which, from what I heard, because again, I have not watched the movie, I could be talking out my ass. I don't know. I heard on this movie, he's very much of a threat.
Well, if you're talking out of your ass, then I guess you legally have to change your name to Lipschitz. But with all that said, I haven't seen it either, and this is a problem I really have with DC films, at least so much as their live-action content. It feels like every character is as serious and brooding as Batman is, when that's not the case. Whereas Marvel takes the other route, where they just make all the characters goofy-esque. And for some reason, Marvel makes more money doing so than DC's brooding characters. I mean, granted, Marvel doesn't hire crazy people like Ezra Miller or Amber Turd, but still.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I will be in the defense of the movie companies and things like that. They don't know 100% the personal lives of these people. Like, who could have guessed Ezra Miller would, excuse the pun, but run off and go do crazy things all the way up close to Vermont.
Who could say? I mean, I understand where you're coming from. It's one of those, you got to separate the art from the artists, but there's got to be a fine line to that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at one point, Harry Potter was a more common household name, but nowadays it's just associated with a woman who's anti-trans.
I don't get that one.
She said something about Twitter about boys having penises and women having vaginas, which biologically within itself is correct, but I think her problem was defending it for as much as she did.
Right.
But I'm not going to here talk about the whole rabbit hole of trans issue because I don't want to. But again, I think this is a fine line of where we need to separate the art from the artist.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It goes to it goes to like something when in my youth, the Chris Benoit controversy and whatnot. It was just a horrible tragedy and whatnot. He had a bunch of mental issues. Chris Benoit, he killed himself and his family. Horrible tragedy. Him as a wrestler, amazing, absolutely spectacular. And whatnot. Him as a person, I can't say. I didn't know the guy. But it's the whole, if you liked him before and then he did this and you don't like him, you need to separate the art from the artist.
Absolutely. Just keep in
Uh,
mind, not everybody's going to think and work the same way you do. Otherwise, we really wouldn't. We would all just basically be autonomous machines.
Yep. Another one is Johann Vasquez. He created Invader Zim. That's what he's most popular known for.
Sounds like it's one of the times where the art is more popular than the artist.
Absolutely. But like, if you read, I have some of his earlier graphic novels. He made Johnny the Homicidal Maniac and Squee and things like that. And he even writes in them, and the stuff he writes is just batshit insane.
Well, anybody who would write it for Invader Zim must be insane to some degree.
True. And he's the creator, so he's up there.
Yeah, I mean, that said, Invader Zim is still funny. I've watched several of the episodes on Paramount Plus, and when I was a kid, it's still enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't mean you don't necessarily have to like the artist, but just like their works.
Exactly.
So I think that's another big distraction with mainstream. It's like, hey, you guys want to watch Harry Potter? No, the author's anti-trans. It's like, no one's asking you to be friends with the author, dude. Just watch the movie.
Yeah. Nobody in the movie is anti-trans. And if they are, they don't reference it.
Exactly. Which is another problem I have with mainstream media. And there are so many cult classics that people can enjoy. But due to the fact that they're not as popular as other films, don't do so. Like, when people think of animated films, I can guarantee you they're going to say either something DreamWorks or something Disney. But there's a whole realm of Disney, of animated works that have done really well. I mean, granted, not by popularity standards, but they do have a cult following for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Like any of the Rankin Bass films, whether it's The Last Unicorn or the Hobbit movie or the Lord of the Rings films, or anything else that they did.
Awesome. That's like, I grew up with that stuff. The Hobbit movies, especially because, all right, here's a dumb story. When I was young, my parents let my sister and I watch The Hobbit, Rankin Bass animated movies.
Okay.
There's a scene where Bilbo and Samwise, and it's one when they blend in with the Uruk-hai army to make their way into Mordor.
The Hobbit, Samwise didn't actually appear in The Hobbit, so is the Lord of the Rings one you're thinking about?
Okay, well, Potato, you know which one I'm thinking about. Sorry.
Well, I just didn't want people commenting.
So they have a song.
How dare you compare Lord of the Rings to The Hobbit? How dare you? Hashtag cancel Alare.
Yeah, go ahead, cancel me. See what happens. Whole lot of nothing. I'm still going to be around doing nothing. But there's a song that the orcs sing to keep their march. It's called "Where There's a Whip, There's a Way." Okay, and as growing up, we had chores. So the next day after we watched the movie, my mother was giving us chores, and my sister and I changed it, the whole thing, to where Mom is whipping us to go do our chores.
I have a feeling if that movie was more mainstream, everybody would have that ringtone for their boss.
It's amazing. Like, again, highly recommend. The whole Rock and Rule. That's another old one that's very, like, dystopian times and things like that. And if that was to be made mainstream today, no way, it'd be canceled right off.
Oh, absolutely. Or even another film, Wizards. It was basically one of those magic versus technology movies. And honestly, their final showdown kind of annoyed me. It's like, oh, so we have a final battle with sorcery and versus technology. It's like, nah, I'm just going to pull a cap on his ass.
Boom, done.
I mean, it worked, but just a little anticlimactic.
Not to mention the hypersexualized, super slutty fairy daughter he had.
Yeah, that was a little weird. Which again, sex does sell, but we don't always need to use it to sell.
Yeah, like unnecessary, but my prepubescence while watching it thanked it very much.
Which again really kind of shows what is and what's not for kids. And honestly, we're in the age of everything needs to be a live action reboot. Disney, get your act together and do a live action version of Treasure Planet and Atlantis the Lost Empires. Those are two underrated films that have absolute potential for phenomenal live action works. You have the technology, so why the hell are you ruining Pinocchio, Lion King, and The Little Mermaid?
It's all a money standpoint.
Yes, because Disney loves making it rain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because
any major corporation.
Well, yeah, I mean, as a businessman, I respect them for doing that. But as a fan of the art, and I do say art, that's behind Disney, not so much.
I mean, another underrated by Disney standards movie was Chicken Little. I loved that movie. Do I think it needs a sequel and its own cartoon show? No, it was a great movie.
I think the problem I personally find with mainstream media is, oh my god, this is so great. Let's make it a sequel. Let's give it its own TV show. Let's have one of the characters be a spinoff. It's like, no, not everything needs to have another take to it. Sometimes it can just be a one and done thing. And that's perfectly fine.
It comes down to it's cheaper to do more with something you already own than to come up with creative content.
Absolutely.
Like overall, it's cheaper to do that.
I think anime also faces a similar... Well, no. Actually, Japan is pretty good with spitting out new content. I mean, granted, there are only a few reboots I can think of for the anime world. Whether it be the Beast Wars spin-off series, whether it be Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, the second Fruits Baskets, and the new Trigun that's currently out, where he's got a more millennial hairstyle.
I just heard about the new Trigun.
Yeah, it's weird and off-putting the way it's animated. I mean, I get it. They're trying to make it more 3D, and his old Dragon Ball Super-esque hairstyle didn't work for the 3D. But to quote The Godfather, my boy, look how they massacred my boy. So, which is, I guess, kind of shows another dangers to mainstream media. The attempt for a better, or quote-unquote better, reboot or a make it more modern-esque thing, when that doesn't always need to be the case. I mean, if you were going to do a reboot of an anime, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood and Dragon Ball Z Kai did this beautifully. It's more accurate to the manga and less filler.
Right.
But then sometimes they just exist just because they need to exist. So I would say overall Japan is better at coming up with original content, where America just wants to do it. They just got to capitalize on already existing stuff. Which explains why we have so many Pokemon games out. It's like, oh, okay, so the characters are different, but it's basically Michael Vick, the video game.
And here's something interesting too. With them, after 20 years, finally retiring Ash. Like, that's... How are they... Like, I don't know if maybe they have already chosen a successor or whatever they're going to do. But that's what I'm interested in. How are they going to replace Ash? Because he's just as iconic as any of the other characters.
Even more so, because he's the only human character that's been kept the same. I mean, granted, you could also say Team Rocket, but even then, their Pokemon change, except for Meowth and Pikachu.
Right.
So it really
there's some mystical green room where they're all sitting around, chilling out, having a drink, just be like, what kind of new shit are they throwing us at now?
Right. Like they actually are, I guess, like a Charles Xavier Magneto thing, where they meet up every once in a while and chat. Which, here's another random Gargoyles fact for you. Did you know that Demona was loosely based on Magneto?
No, but I could see it. I could definitely see it.
More so the mentality than any physical features. The us versus them mentality.
Mhm.
And here's an idea. I think Gargoyles definitely needs to be continued. And if you want to continue it, hashtag keep bitching Gargoyles to all your social media platforms and buy the comics. Those are some good comics. I've read a good portion of them. Very well done.
Absolutely.
But my biggest problem with Gargoyles is season 3. Save for the first episode of season 3, every other episode is a filler episode. Like Greg Weisman was not involved in it at all.
Which one was season 3? Was that where they were traveling all around the world?
No, that was still season 2. Season 3 was where the police station gets blown up and Xanatos invites the Manhattan Clan back to live with him. If you haven't seen it, there's no need to see it. I mean, except for the first episode. But even then, it's called the Goliath
that's when the Gargoyles
Chronicles.
became more. Yeah, all right, yep, I got you.
Yeah, even then,
We're
it's
turned into more of a racial thing.
Yeah, but I mean, granted, every story has its own allegoric version of racism. Like Zootopia, for example, does that well.
Yep.
Which I believe is one of the better, more modern Disney films. Sure, you could say it's allegoric, but you know what? Animal Farm was also allegoric of communist Russia. Mm-hmm. But it still worked for what it was. Would I believe that film would be made today? Probably not.
I would be interested to see them make an Animal Farm in today's day and age.
Honestly, probably not, because if Disney can get rid of Anastasia just for even being remotely related to Russia, I doubt any company would want to promote something that's allegoric to communist Russia.
Yeah, but I think the core of Animal Farm, it shows how the communism is bad. So that might, if they did it that way, that might be the way it gets out. But they might be afraid of the whole propaganda aspect of it.
Well, what's that old saying? Any publicity is good publicity?
True.
So who knows? But honestly, I feel like there's just so much potential. Like, Gennady Tartakovsky, he's done really well in original content. Samurai Jack, Dexter's Laboratory, and Primal. All good series examples thereof.
Primal is amazing.
It is. I'm not really happy with how they ended the series, but overall, it just shows that you don't need dialogue to have a good story.
Right.
I mean, the score itself is absolutely phenomenal. The artistic, the art, like the actual animation, also phenomenal. And there are very few words spoken in that series. Like, there's one episode in season 2 that had the most dialogue than every other episode put together.
Yeah, well, the entirety of season 1, I think it was, he only said one word at the very, very end.
Yeah, and it was the girl's name. That's it.
The girl's name, yeah. Like, that's amazing. Where there were some, like, okay, I don't remember this because, like, when I get home, it's late at night and I'll watch things like that I can't watch while my son's around. There was the episode with the infected Brachiosaurus that was just pure, unadulterated nightmare fuel.
I don't know if it was a Brachiosaurus, but yes, I know the episode you're talking about.
Horrific. And it may have been augmented that I had a cocktail or 5, but just oh my god.
Exactly, case in point. And sometimes even original content can become mainstream. Case in point, Rick and Morty. That has become a common household name in the 6 seasons it existed. But then again, Rick and Morty's whole existence is just a parody freaking Doc and Marty.
Right.
But yet somehow it works for them. But that's another problem we have with mainstream. It's like it's one of those flying too close to the sun things. And if even one person's not happy with it, it starts a whole trend of it should be canceled. Shouldn't have happened this way, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, it really depends on what's mainstream. Case in point, one of my favorite anime franchises, One Piece, isn't really popular in the States. But if you go to Japan, One Piece will basically be like our Batman, our Superman.
Right. Now, here's a question.
Here's an answer.
Since you are such a One Piece fan. Yeah, I hope so. Now, don't you think they could have done with less episodes of One Piece? Because they're in the thousands right now.
Well, first off, would you believe that this isn't the longest anime in existence?
Really?
Really, there's
I
some
know it's
animes
close.
that have lasted longer than One Piece.
Wow.
But to answer
I know
your question,
like Fairy Tail is up there with.
Oh, dude, Fairy Tail's not even close to One Piece. You're basically comparing ground beef to filet mignon. But to answer your question, yes and no. And here's why I phrase it exactly as such. Yes, because I would like to check this box off. No, because I'm too busy enjoying the ride that I don't want it to end.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at this point, one of the things I have on my bucket list is finish One Piece, because I've been following the series for over 20 years. But even then, it's like one of those. It's one of those. There's mainstream, and then there's regional mainstream. If that makes sense. Like where some things are more popular than others. I mean, granted, Spider-Man is a worldwide phenomenon. But the same thing can't be said for every franchise in existence. Pokemon? Yeah, same thing. Every single person around the world plays Pokemon. Whether it's Pokemon Go, the actual games, or even Super Smash Bros., they select Mewtwo or Incineroar as their character of choice.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that could be an issue with mainstream. But America really does send the trends as far as what's popular and what's acceptable. And characters like Batman and Superman and Spider-Man are more popular than Japan, whatever Japan can come out with.
It is like they come up with some of the craziest stuff. Like, I would love to live there for a month and just see.
Well, keep in mind, Japan does things differently than what the States do, which I guess strange is all about relativity. Like if you go to Europe, you're going to see topless women, and it's just going to be the same way you treat a topless guy. But in the States, oh no, you can't look, she's got her top off. Whoa. It's like, what, do guys not have nipples?
Nope, they take them off at birth.
Which really kind of gives us a
lot. But no, I get what you're saying. It's the whole culture difference.
Which I guess culture also kind of helps factor what's more popular or what's more mainstream than others.
Mm-hmm.
Like Marvel has become more mainstream than it was back when I was a kid. I've always been a DC fan, and there's no better Batman than Kevin Conroy, and no better Joker than Mark Hamill. God rest Kevin Conroy's soul.
Right.
I mean, granted, there are some people who don't come close to being a good Joker, as good as Mark Hamill. That, of course, being John DiMaggio and Brent Spiner. But even then, it's no comparison. But I think this can also even dive further into when people say, who's your favorite Joker? They're probably going to give you someone like, say, Christian
Bale.
Yeah,
or
Christian Bale, thank you. Or the original one from the Tim Burton films.
Oh, Jack Nicholson.
No, he was Joker. But yeah, that kind of proves the whole point of mainstream media. And a lot of the times, animation gets sidetracked from from live action because a lot more people are into live action.
Right.
So even then, live action can be seen as more mainstream media. I never understood why. I think animation works because it has no limits to it. So overall, what can we say about this? Mainstream is popular, but I think we all need to give the cult classic stuff a try once in a while. So
Absolutely. At least go back and see where it came from.
check out the original source. Done and done.
Yeah.
Or check something your friend recommends to you that's not, say, if you're an anime fan, not one of the big 3 shonen anime of the current genre.
Check out Evangelion.
Case in point. Honestly, the series itself is a solid okay, but that theme song, oh my god.
Yes.
Easily one of the best theme songs out there.
At the end, and then like the movie, just complete and total batshit. It's just batshit crazy. It's insane. But it gave us a freshwater, warm weather penguin that drinks beer. So, it can't be all that.
Yeah, and Guardians of the Galaxy gave us a raccoon that likes to shoot guns. Howdy, folks. My name's Rocket Raccoon. Look at my gun.
That's right.
Which I'm going to leave you all with one question. If Guardians of the Galaxy, and think about before when it happened, say pre-2014, would you know who they are? This is a question you all need to ask yourself. So, Joe, thank you for the time that you've taken to be on my episode today.
Anytime, I love being here. It's fun.
Hey, it's always nice having you. Before we go any further, one more time, who are you? What do you do? And where can people find you?
My name is Joe. As for finding me, you can find me on TikTok, but that's nothing special. At Papa Bear, and I am Papa Bear Vigo, Vigo. Sorry, I am a voice actor on Faerun: The Untold Story, and I am just a very eclectic. I'm an ex-independent wrestler that really didn't do much. I'm not hyping myself at all, but I'm forging away with the current time and everything. So, but yes, Faerun: The Untold Story, that is the most popular place you will find me. My handle is Priest on Discord. That just sounded filthy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just didn't want to call you out on it.
I will totally call myself out on my tongue tripping over itself.
Well, either way.
On Discord, my name.
So you're also on Discord under Priest,
definitely.
Right?
Priest, yes. So,
sure.
Thank you all again, and I love being here.
Hey, we always love having you. But until then, either you like the mainstream stuff, you want to give the cult classic stuff a try, or you just want to have a little blend of variety, just keep this in mind. No matter what you do, stay geeky.